This is TPL Local Owen Sound. Thanks for being with us. And so the topic today, as itchy as it might make you, or as terrifying as it is ticks. Across the country, Canada is experiencing a major tick problem. And to talk more about it with me today, Paul Macucci, thank you very much. Paul, by the way, from the national network, tplmedia.ca. If you're catching this local, make sure that you subscribe for the other shows, and you'll see Paul all over there on many topics. Thank you for joining me on this one.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I know a lot about this, honestly, because I dealt with it early in my life. And what had happened was I was working with a group of guys, and one day they came to me and said, we would like to adventure race. So for those of you...
What is that?
Yeah, it's not as popular right now as it used to be. But years ago, it was super popular. We used to travel around the country, and we used to do 1 day, 3 day races. They even had 7-day races, only did one of those. And what we would do is we would bike, run, we would canoe, we would portage, rappel, all kinds of events. But you did it with a map. So you orienteer your way through the wilderness from checkpoint to checkpoint, and you had to do it in sequence, not missing a checkpoint, or you were eliminated.
I remember this now.
Yeah.
And it was like pretty grueling, as I recall. In fact, I think The Amazing Race to some degree, and what was Joe Rogan's old show there?
Fear Factor.
Fear Factor.
Yeah.
It seemed like a combination of those in this experience. Where did you do that?
So we did it mostly in Ontario, but we had a motorhome, so we traveled across into BC, did some races in BC, and you got to see the country. Beautiful, we were deep inside the country, so we would lose ourselves in forests and rivers for days on end, and I loved it. And we were a team powerhouse was the name, because all of us were over 200 pounds. And we were probably the biggest team in the most race. But the guys were great. I had a really good team.
I could see the team in front of you going, no, I hear them. They're coming.
Yeah, huffing. So, and we had a hard time. We would go, when we started out, we would actually, because we weren't the greatest orienteer. And Ryan was our orienteer guy. He had our compass and our map. And he was...
Was he ever found?
Yeah, was he ever found? But the challenge was if you missed, you'd go sometimes you'd go 50 miles off track.
Yeah,
and you'd have to re-engineer yourself back and orient yourself. And then at nightfall would come, and you'd have to find lean-to. So you'd make your quick lean-to. You'd get your gear out. It was all on your back. You were carrying it. Your thermal blanket, you'd go underneath it, you'd fall asleep for a few hours, and you'd be back up and running again. But that's why I preferred the 1 day events, because I was back in the motorhome with a beer by night.
That sounds reasonable to a guy like me, but yeah.
But here I am loving this let's call it sport, pastime, hobby. I'm loving it. But as we finished, I think season 3. And it was very communal too, because after you finish the races, there's a big dinner, there's awards, everyone's tired, everyone has drinks around the campfire. They go sleep quickly because you've done so many miles.
Of course, yeah.
Whatever number of days you've been doing it. The crew started to get sick. And we didn't know why. And you were hearing stories through the winter of friends, teammates, getting super sick with these weird diseases where they'd fall asleep and the fatigue would be overwhelming.
Right.
So then we all started to learn about Lyme disease. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And it didn't happen to one. It happened to a dozen in year 3. And so I called the guys and I said, I'm not sure I'm in for this, because it took a year of their life to recover, at least. So, let's get into it. But
yeah,
I didn't realize, quite frankly, that these deer ticks, which seem to be so small and, because remember, we had one race where we're moving along, and we had just come out of canoeing. We just come off the bike. We got into the canoe. We were getting all wet because it was pouring rain.
Right.
Dave, who was on our team, Dave and Ryan, I was in the back paddling the canoe. Dave's in the middle, and Ryan's up front. Dave started to get hypothermia because the weather got cold.
So bad.
So cold. We're in BC. Weather got cold. We're paddling along. And so we got the thermal blankets out. We got them packed up because you could see him shaking and he was starting to lose his body temperature. We get him done, and we're like, okay, Dave, we're good. We're trying to keep him positive because we don't need him to get sick.
Yeah.
We're paddling along, and Ryan says, well, we're at the back. We're almost here, guys. He's trying to be positive, right? Just when he says that, we get hit by locusts. We get hit by these biggest black flies you've ever seen.
Wow.
Hitting us all over. And this went on for at least 20 minutes. And, it almost drives you insane with that many bugs hitting you at that much rate. Because, you've got, at that point, you got to get your bandanas out. You got to cover your mouth. You got to get your goggles out. You're getting all your gear out to keep from swallowing these bugs. And then they're going in your ears. They're climbing in your hair. They're going down. It's super.
Yeah, I know. That would make me absolutely crazy.
Yeah. And it does make you crazy. So you have to kind of get to your happy place. So we finish, and, I'm in the back, and they go away, and Dave's shaking still, but he's feeling a little better. And I said, okay, guys, we're through it. We got through locusts. We got through Dave's hypothermia. What could happen next? As soon as I said that, snowball-sized hail started hitting us on the head.
So this wasn't the quitting point for you at this moment?
No. And
it can be vicious out west.
Yeah. So then we're getting hit with these golf balls of hail. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, Dave's shaking more because it's cold again.
And it's terrifying. He's getting pelted.
Yeah, and it's bouncing in and off. And we're trying to actually throw it out of the canoe because it's filling the canoe up.
The actual hail. So
so we're shoveling it out of the canoe.
The hail.
So we're bailing the hail. So we get through. So we're not adverse to bad climates and bugs and everything else.
That was a rough day.
But this tick issue really scared us. So when we got through the season and all our friends and cohorts started to get sick, we're like, oh. So then we started to do some research on it. And, we can talk a little bit about the symptoms, but the symptoms that we were finding, I don't think we really realized how dangerous it was to your health and your future
When
health.
you say that it's debilitating to people for a year or more,
I've
had two scenarios in my life. A friend of mine and his son, just on a simple hike, both of them ended up with Lyme disease from a tick. Yeah. And the next 2 years, he was a young little guy. The next 2 years of his life were literally hell, just trying to be a student and trying to be a little guy. They finally got treatment that worked, the antibiotic system that they got onto, and the whatever forms of treatment they used at the time. And most recently, one of our friends, Doug, his dog Gracie, sadly was bit by a tick, and it was a scary week and a half for that dog.
Oh yeah.
So this is very serious, and it's becoming a much bigger problem across Canada, from hiking trails, campground, just some of the examples of places you'll find these.
Yeah.
Tall grass, unkept, low-lying grass and shrubs, hiking trails, campgrounds, local parks, even backyard gardens. I was in the garden last night, and I kept doing this. I kept looking. I had the tick spray on, and it's 31 degrees at 10 o'clock last night, and I'm still wearing a pair of pants because it's probably the most effective way to avoid ticks.
It is.
And now reports are saying that the tick population is on the rise. Health risks that they pose are terrible. Let's talk about how maybe you can protect yourself and what some of the fallout from this is. I made some notes from the Ontario has a very stringent tick program right now, asking people to make sure their pets are checked, to check clothing when they come inside. Just a huge awareness program going on. But the first question is why? And the reason, first of all, scientists think this is on the rise is because we've had shifting milder winters in parts of Canada that are normally frozen out, allowing tick populations to survive, live longer, become hardier.
Yeah.
And then the other issue is that it's just spreading, and it's spreading north as the milder winters are happening. And then the other thing that we're seeing because of that is because it is moving north where there's more wildlife. Wildlife is traipsing it around. So it's being transmitted essentially by wildlife in many ways because they're so affected by it as well.
Yeah.
Now the risks, you talked about the main one.
Oh yeah. Well, can I just one thing, and this is something you got to really pay attention to, which again, we were so oblivious to Lyme disease and ticks when we were doing this.
Well, it is a fairly new understanding.
Well, and I probably at some point had Lyme disease. I think about it, and maybe I didn't have the same side effects, because not everyone has the same side effects. But we would finish a race and we'd be sitting there having a beer and a hamburger and a barbecue, and we'd be all sitting telling war stories, because when you're doing these races, there's these crazy war stories that happen. People ride their bike over the side of cliffs. People you're in the wilderness, right? People are riding along and they hit a stump and they basically fly 10 meters.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's all these kind of stories you tell, and they're unfortunately when you start off with 100 people, 10 or 50 of them come back pretty banged up.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to
spraying
them.
something.
So we'd sit around kind of, showing our arms and legs and having a drink and talking about this. And every once in a while, throughout the different summers, these people would say, "Look at this on my arm." And there'd be this huge bullseye.
Right.
And we'd all go,
"What caused that?"
"That's the weirdest bruise I've ever seen."
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't a bruise. It was the tick bite. It was
Right.
It was from the deer tick, and they had bit them. And the little buggers sit in the weeds. They sit damp. They love damp spaces. So if you're by a river or you're by somewhere, you got to really watch out, because they love to sit there. And they sit there and they jump, so you can see them. So if you ever watch a tick, I don't know if you've ever been.
And they
by
jump
a tick.
fast. It's crazy. It's like,
So when you go by flies sometimes and you see flies going like this around you, ticks kind of do the same thing. They're sitting there and they get on you. So they might land on your pants and then they start to crawl along, and they're looking for a soft, fleshy part of your body.
right.
And once they get there, and they love like your inner thighs, they like to
In
be
the
by your
groin
belly
area,
button.
belly button. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They want to be there. So when they see that flesh, that's when they go in and they attach to relieve or to inject the bacteria. And that's the bacteria that's going to affect you long term if you don't get it treated. And that's why when they pull out, so eventually when they stop and they wipe them off or you get them off your skin, as soon as they come out, quite frankly, you'll start to see that bullseye form around where the center is where they went in.
I actually got a tick, discovered it getting in the shower.
Oh.
I flipped out. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Because now, this is at a time just a couple of years ago where we were starting to hear about Lyme disease and it was becoming prominent. Yeah. There's a business owner from Magnotta Winery. You might know them here in Ontario.
I do.
Rosanna Magnotta, unfortunately, her husband, founder of the company, passed away due to complications after suffering some time with Lyme disease. And she started a foundation. I started to learn more about that through the radio station I was at. I found this thing and I flipped out. When I called the doctor, and I should share this with people, when I called the doctor, they said, "Okay, here's how to remove it.
Yeah.
Press down at the head of it and remove it backwards using tweezers. Ideally, if you can get a tick remover, that's going to be the best way." The next thing the doctor said was, "Don't panic. I have a prescription ready for you. It's an antibiotic. It should counter the bacteria, and you shouldn't have any other problems." So early detection is a big deal. If you've already got the bruise, if you've already got the target from it, still treatment is available. However, you're in better shape if you can get it before that bacteria starts to really transmit into your body. Some of the risks: Lyme disease remains the biggest concern. Symptoms include fever, fatigue, headaches, exactly what you're describing, muscle aches and joint pain. Not everybody develops that classic bullseye rash.
No, they don't.
And as I point out,
that's the sad thing, actually. I wish they did, right? Because at least they would know.
It says right here, early treatment is usually very effective, and that was the experience that I had.
Now, early, so can I throw some at you?
Yeah.
And I learned this from actually a friend who got it. 1 to 28 days is what they talk about as early.
Okay.
So for those
That's
of you,
a good period of time if you detect that you've been bit.
Yeah, if you think you've been bit, you have that, especially if you have the bullseye between, in that month, you got to move. You got to get the antibiotics that you talked about, Mike. Because after that, there's a different treatment between 3 and 12 weeks.
Okay.
So
Right.
after
All right.
that, you're in a different set of antibiotics. So
Which is a longer course of treatment.
it's like a 10-day antibiotic treatment you're in at that point. So you got to enter into the next level of antibiotics.
Honestly, Paul, I think that when I detected it, they gave me two pills was the
Yeah.
course of response.
Yeah.
But I got it while it was still in me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what they asked me to do? The doctor asked me to put the tick into a Ziploc bag
Yeah.
and take a photo of it and send it to them so that they could identify it as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So if you can do that.
But if you make it to, so that, if you do make it to the second stage, so if you don't catch it on the first stage, unfortunately, it takes off from a health perspective. And then you're going to start to, most of the time, you're going to start to see other, which again, this was what was happening throughout this winter I talked to you about after doing all these races with, friends, fellow competitors. They started to get these crazy rashes. And so
Right.
they were kind of, we had a a group chat thing going on, and we were all like, they're like, did you guys get a really bad rash all down your legs, 3 months after we were there? And we're like, no. Right. And they're like, yeah, I'm getting these crazy rashes, and I'm going to the doctor and they're sending me to specialists.
So you started hearing symptoms from these guys, different types.
My mechanic, who ran too, he's a guy who worked on my car in Toronto. He ran some of the races. He actually got Bell's palsy, so facial paralysis.
Wow.
So which they did say that the symptoms were correlated. So one day he just came and he had droopy face. And
Where did that come from?
Well, the funny thing was I was in seeing him. I was getting my car fixed, and he's like, yeah, he says, I woke up and I got this. I'm like, oh, Dave, that's crazy. Now, he did recover. He got everything back going again, but it was really bad.
Bell's palsy can be a long, arduous, terrible process to get through. And
he got through it.
Well, yeah. Okay, so now a couple of things I think we should maybe do at this point. We've terrified everybody, which is good.
Yeah,
really. I mean, it's one of those things you need to be aware of. Wear light-colored clothing when you're hiking or camping. They do not seem to detect lighter colors as easily.
Yes.
Use insect repellent containing DEET. Remember we were told don't use DEET?
Use DEET.
I'm not a doctor, but I'm going to tell you right now, if it'll work for this, use DEET or icaridin. Icaridin. Does that sound familiar to you?
No.
Okay, well, I'll put that in the description so you've got it. Stay on established trails when possible because they don't, you're going to find them like we put out there right away. It's in the tall fescue and the weeds that are growing. Yeah. Avoid walking through tall grass and dense brush, and perform a full body tick check after outdoor activities. This is essential. I would not have found that tick except that I was lucky. Now I kind of take a look. Yeah. Shower after spending time in wooded or grassy areas because you can, in fact, detach or wash away ticks that have not attached as of yet. And then now how to remove one of these things. I'm going to ask that you look this up. Consult a doctor. Because a demonstration of this we cannot do for you. As much as I tried to find a tick to put on you, Paul, I could not before I left the house. Use fine tip tweezers.
Yes.
Grab the tick as close to the skin as possible and pull straight out, slowly and steadily, because they have barbs that you want to be able to carefully pull through the skin without them detaching and releasing the bacteria. Clean the area with soap and water. And monitor for symptoms over the following weeks. Like you say, you've got, about 30 days of kind of watch time.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure that you keep an eye on it.
Yep.
Make sure that you notify your doctor about it. Keeping your pet safe. Veterinary recommended tick prevention products. My dog got fed hers yesterday, and we do this. I'll recommend it. Check your dogs and cats after walks. Just go around, feel around, their underarms, their neck, their ear area. Areas around their hindquarters. Pet them. You'll feel it, hopefully, unless you have a super coarse hair. And you can also use a tick comb, which I think is pretty important now that we know.
I used to brush my huskies right after. I'd walk them and then brush them just in case.
You know what? It's well advised. It takes just a couple of minutes, and it's in their best interest. And don't forget this: a tick can arrive on you from your pet. Yeah. So best to keep an eye on your pet as well. I thought I'd just mention those because it is an interesting thing. I heard a story. I'll share this with you. Oh, by the way, if you want to protect your property, keeping your grass short, obviously,
Yeah.
leaf piles and brush, you don't want that hanging around. Trim overgrown areas, especially if your pets are going to be going around in those areas.
Can
And
I
ch-
throw-
yeah,
can I
and check
throw
your
one?
children and pets.
Yeah, can I throw one at you just to think about for those of you who are concerned about it, especially if you're living on the water? If you have a high-powered leaf blower,
Yes.
right? If you're going to be spending time in that area, leaf blow it first. So that's what I do now because I'm down by the lake.
Fantastic.
So what I do,
idea.
I have a very high-powered leaf blower. So if I'm doing some work down there during the day, I take the leaf blower and I blow it out really hard, and then I go work. Right?
What a fantastic
Yeah,
suggestion.
that's to think about.
By the way, here's some myths people think that are true that are not. Ticks don't jump; they actually crawl onto you.
Oh, I thought they jumped.
I thought they jumped too. They actually, but
Yeah.
that's because they use the wind to launch themselves.
Oh, okay.
So if you're going by and you've brushed up against it,
Yeah.
when it comes back, they will use that to launch themselves onto you. They're very good acrobats, as I understand it.
Oh.
They can survive Canadian winters, Paul.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They've they've bred themselves or whatever to be more hardy.
Tick bites are painless mostly.
Yeah.
So you
feel
don't
them.
know. That's why your buddies were like mystified by this. If you had something and you were like, oh, and that came up, you would definitely, you would understand what happened to you.
Well, think about them. They had, not to give myself any kudos, but quite frankly, the crew that I was running with or the competitors, they had very high pain tolerances. So quite frankly, ticks would have been nothing for them, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Even if they did make a little pinch, they were like, okay. And you don't need to be deep in the woods to encounter ticks. I got mine actually walking down by the lake.
Yeah.
Just walking the dog down by the lake. So I'll tell you an interesting story. I was thinking about this on the way in today. I heard Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's the best Stone Cold Steve Austin I can do. Nick, what do you think?
I thought he was here.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I appreciate that. He was talking about how when he retired from wrestling, he was trying to keep himself busy and he got into hunting. And he had this like fancy Trans Am or whatever, a sports car, but he would still go out and hunt and he would shoot deer. And being that he's a big, tough guy, he'd pull the deer out of the woods himself and carry it the 500 meters on his back.
Oh, yeah.
So he'd strap the deer, which, most of us guys do this. You strap the deer over your shoulders and he's now walking back and he flumps it onto the back of his car. And he gets in and ties it all down. Now he's driving through town, I guess, with a sports car and a deer on the back. There goes Steve Austin. Yeah. With the deer on his car. He said by the time he got home, his entire back was covered like a shirt with ticks.
Oh, my goodness.
He said that carrying the deer on his back just transmitted every tick directly onto him.
Oh,
Now,
my goodness.
he was lucky enough not to have any fallout from this, but he pointed out, you can't believe how many ticks are on a deer.
Oh, yeah. Cripes. Well, deer ticks. That's why they call them that, right?
I'm glad we talked about this. Check your local safety notifications through your region, town, or city to find out more about what the tick situation is locally. But this is it, and it's traveling coast to coast in the country. That's why we're talking about it here locally. Don't forget, subscribe to tplmedia.ca/local. All kinds of great content locally for you. You get the weather, you get news, constant feed from our live national network. And if you subscribe, you get access to everything. Thanks, Paul. I appreciate this.
Thanks, Mike.